Everybody, welcome. You're, it's a long story of why you see me in bed, okay? Let me just ask if I could have the water. Thank you. Okay, it's a long story. I fell about a week ago, and I'm sort of used to falling and then getting up, and I might be a little sore, but that's it. And thank you. Okay, this is for drinking in case I get hoarse. And what happened was, 3 days later, I became really sick. Not as sick, but stiff and not feeling good. And first I thought it may be a different kind of COVID, but it's not. I found out, well, my kids took me to Syosset first of all to get x-rays and then other tests. And tomorrow they're going to take me to the hospital and check the tests some more. I mean, to have the orthopedist check. So I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let me just tell you about other things. Let me take a sip of water first. The sip is taken. Okay, here's what I was thinking about. The world changed what I was going to speak about to begin with. Let me speak about that. And by the way, you'll get reports continually, okay? But I'm going to be okay because my brain is fine, and that's what matters. I am going to tell you how the world changed, and I'd love comments from you about that as well. There was a time when I joined Facebook when I would get all kinds of messages of people I have never met, don't know, will never know, but actually hundreds of messages. And words like this: I want to be your friend. I'm glad to be your friend. How are you? Now, how do you answer the word "how are you" to a machine? Because usually I got a photo of a dog or a cat or a ghost or a face of a real person who was not real to me. I'd never met them. And I realized it's when the chickens come home to roost. I have gotten so used to robot calls. When the phone rings, I'm painting. I have to put the brushes down, wipe them, get the phone. By then the person is gone. It was a robot call. And that never existed before. Before, when somebody called, it was a company or a person. Perhaps a stranger, but never a hello, how are you? With an advertisement or blank, no sound. And when I said the chickens have come home to roost, that wonderful Facebook, which gives me such an opportunity to speak to the world, keeps sending me people who say, how are you? And a picture of a dog. Am I part of this downfall of humanity, that's enough? I caused it because I hung up on people constantly. the very idea of somebody saying, I want to be your friend, but tells me nothing, scares me. I don't want to live in a world where I cannot know people. Do you remember the story of the Tower of Babel? In German, it was Babel. About there was a tower, and either it collapsed and the people who fell down all spoke different languages. I don't remember the story anymore, but I do know that after that everybody spoke different languages and nobody understood each other anymore. And I wanted to talk about that originally, and I would love your comments. How do you deal with that world? Okay? And then I'll stop about that topic. But I'd love to hear your voice about it. Another thing, nowadays, years ago, if you needed something repaired, you would call a company and they would listen and tell you what to do or come over and fix it. We had to fix our refrigerator. We couldn't find anybody who was willing to come. And then after a while, we couldn't find anybody who was willing to answer the phone. Finally, we did get somebody. This is what the world has become. They advertise for people to take jobs now and can't get people to come to be employed. Explain to me. Don't people need to eat? Don't people need to work? It's another thing for which I need an explanation. Let me leave that. Give me an explanation whenever you can. But I would rather hear a story from you about how you deal with things. I need all the advice that I can get. But don't send me a picture of a dog when you want to know me, okay? Without any explanation. You could say, I'm sending you the picture of a dog because he's better looking than I am. And I don't want you to see my face. Because I only have one eye. Or my nose has been broken. But let me understand that there's a human being who tries to speak to me. Now, I'll talk about human beings. My Jessie, my grandchild, has always been somebody to whom I went for advice. It's not because he's bright, it's because he hears. And when I was counseling in the prison system, and I was working with somebody young, I would call him and I would say, tell me what to do. And if it was a serious issue that somebody faced, he said, an emotional issue, he would say, sit down and write everything you can think of that led to this. Write everything you feel. Write about the people that caused it. Write about how you caused it. Write about everything. And then when you're finished, tear it up so that nobody sees it. Because if you don't write what you really feel, you're not going to get any answers. But if you write what you feel and know that nobody will ever see it, then you write about everything. And you have to tear it up and destroy it. Well, a couple of days ago, I got a message from somebody who's very important in my life. Very important. Dealing with an anxiety problem. And I said, Jesse's advice, sit down and write. But write everything down that causes you this pain, including yourself. Don't feel that anybody will read it and get angry with you, because when you're finished, you will tear it up. Otherwise, you cannot be honest with yourself and you can't find the answer. Well, my friend wrote me the answer. It worked. Okay? And when the other day, when Jesse came to visit me, I said to him, Jesse, your world is so different from what it would have been a few years ago. How do you feel about life right now? Your life, nobody else's, your life. And he said, I don't know. And I said, let me give you your advice. Can you write? Write everything you can think of, but make sure that at the end you tear it up. And he looked at me and he said, because he's a wonderful artist, he says, could I draw it?
Do you want me to hold it up?
And I said, of course. He's not going to have to explain it to you, because I told him don't tear it up. But it's how I see the world through his eyes also. Okay? And it goes back how I feel about it. Oh, thank you. How I feel about it goes to another story. My son, no, let me begin at the beginning. 2 books are what I have been reading constantly, because they're not books that you look at and read like a novel. They're books that make me think. And one of them is Cosmic Queries. And the other one is from Dr. Joe about respect. And I'm trying to live through them. And according to that, you and I, and all of us, were formed from a vastness of not millions, but billions of happenings. And ever since then, I haven't stopped thinking about it. I picked up a tangerine, and I opened it, and I looked at the layers, how they lay into each other, and how they are covered with such tenderness that they don't split open. And I thought, but who designed it? And all this story of gases and atoms and billions of different gases. Who put me together? And my son told me a story of a dream of his when we were talking about that. And the story of his dream was about that he and I and my father and my husband, all who shaped him, but who also shaped me, took me to a mountain that we were supposed to climb, but the steps to it were wooden steps, and the only support would have been a sort of wagon, like a jeep. But there were only steps. And we both coined the word magic. And I've been playing with that word. The word magic. It's not somebody pulling a rabbit out of a hat. It's not a machine that does things. It's the miracle of why I exist, of why you exist, why Jessie exists, where everybody I love, including my dog, exists. And I came to the conclusion, my conclusion, is that maybe the world is being created by magic. Magic not being a religion, not being an old man with a beard, not being a god. But what if there is a thing called magic which self-creates? Because through the book of the cosmos, things came out of nothing. Then what about that tangerine? And that's what I wanted to talk about. Are there any comments?
Yes, quite a few actually.
Could you read every one of them?
Yeah.
Very loudly, because I can't hear.
Jose Bill Gray says, "Dearest Hedy, I hope you get better soon."
Thank you.
Let's see. Janine says, "Dearest Hedy, take care of yourself, please. Love you."
I love you back.
Mary Lou says, "Please take care."
Yes.
Let's see. Julie says, "Oh goodness, are you okay?"
Yes.
Let's see. Mary Lou says, "Torre de Babel, people wanted to make a tower to reach heaven. So God said no. Destroy the tower, and the people couldn't go on because they spoke different languages and couldn't understand each other."
Thank you.
Let's see. Mary Lou says, "Right, I will do that from now on. Good idea. Thanks. You always have an answer." Julie says, "Great advice, Jessie. Writing can be so cathartic." And she also says, "Love your drawing, Jess." Thank you. Carol says, "Wonderful advice. It's worked for me as well." And then your son just said what happened while you're in bed. That's not really... Okay, Julie says, "Hedy, I love that you have maintained your sense of wonder and curiosity. I agree about the idea of magic. We need to embrace the mystery of all we don't know or understand. Love you. Sending healing thoughts your way."
Julie, you understood. Are there any other things that people want to say about magic? About how the world appears to them? Be my platform. Speak. Let's see.
You have 10 minutes. You're good.
Okay. If I have 10 minutes, then I have to talk about the painting which I'm working on, but I can't bring upstairs. It's too big. And I can't take it to the basement to see. Jessie, during the rest of this time, would you want to go down with the camera and photograph it?
I'll put it on the Facebook page later so people can see it.
Okay. Let me ask you something else. Since I'm still supposed to talk, and please interrupt me at all times. About 40 years ago, I woke up feeling strange. There was a ringing in my ears, and I felt very strange. I felt as if I were encased in metal or something. And the rheumatologist did not know what it was. No doctor knew what was wrong with me. I couldn't walk. And the magic of self-creation. I had been a volunteer in the prison system for many years. We used to have meetings of the volunteers in our house. And one day, one of the volunteers called me and he said, "Hedy, when is the next meeting?" And I told him, and then he said, "By the way, how is your leg?" And I said, "It's not my leg anymore, it's my whole body." Oh yeah, because before that happened, I had hit my knee on the car door. And I went to a doctor, and he did what another doctor later called the slingshot method. He just threw medications at me. So anyway, he asked, "How is your leg?" And I said, "It's my whole body." And he said, "Have you gone to a good doctor?" And I said, "Yes, but they don't know anything." "I've gone, but nobody knows." And he said, "It's okay." He said, "My daughter is married to a doctor who works with a doctor who cures incurable diseases. When do you want to see him?" And I said, "No professional asks me when I want to see them. They tell me weeks later when I can have an appointment." And he said, No, not with Dr. D'Angelo. "When do you want to see him?" And I said, "Immediately." So he gave me the number of his daughter's husband, Dr. Mastroli, who worked for Dr. D'Angelo. And he said to me, "When do you want to see me?" We're in the Catholic Charities Hospital in Queens. I think it was Catholic Charities, right? And we went down immediately, no appointment, when I wanted to see him. Dr. D'Angelo sat with me. First, Dr. Mastroli asked me all the questions. Then Dr. D'Angelo spoke to me, and he said to me, "Did you ever have nosebleed?" And I said, "Of course, all children have nosebleed." And he said, "No, they don't." And then he said, "Your beautiful rosy cheeks, how did you get them that way?" And I said, I always come, my cheeks are always rosy." And he said, "That's a sign of lupus." And he cured me. What he said was, he said, "Here is what you will take and do. These are the medications. Here is how you will take them. And the most important thing, you can call me day or night, anytime. You will stop being afraid because you're so afraid." When I walked the first 100 blocks, I wrote him and I said, "I walked 100 blocks by myself. Thank you." I ended up, during the time of getting well, because everything in me was wounded. And my bones, the legacy from it is that my bones are very brittle, which causes me to fall off, which is no fun. But I'll cure that too. And I was thinking, I have shared my lupus writing with so many people who knew about it, who had lupus. If you want me to, I can ask Jessie to put that writing on next week, because we are all so unable to speak to people now. We're used to hanging up on people. We're used to not having the language of saying, I'm hurting. And I cannot tell you how to do what Jessie did by saying, tell people to sit down and write everything that you want to feel. But make sure you tear it up, because otherwise you can't tell the truth. You'll be afraid somebody will read it. Are there any more comments?
Janine says, yes, please. I would love to see it. Your son says, yes, please. And please write about the struggle as well. That's it.
Okay, now, is there any way of them seeing the painting?
I'm going to put it on the Facebook page when you're done.
When we're done. Okay.
Yeah.
Then let me tell you about the painting. It is going to be the most important painting of my life. First of all, because I will cure myself, because I need to finish it. Okay? Because it needs to be finished. It is a painting that comes out of my learning not to be afraid. Because there is magic. And maybe I am the magic for other people. Maybe that painting will be the magic for some of you who I put in there. Because remember, for it to be a finished painting, I need a story from everyone of how they see themselves. Because if I see myself as weak and frightened, my body becomes weak and frightened. If I see myself as a great painter, it doesn't work. For me, a great painter, I only found one in my life who surpasses and belongs to magic, and that's Rembrandt. Because there is a painting in the Rembrandt in the museum, I think the Metropolitan, of a woman painted by Rembrandt. And when I sat in front of it and looked, I know she spoke to me. Which meant that Rembrandt sat with somebody and their soul met, as I have found with some of the people who are close to me. We understand each other. And you know whom I mean. You know, especially the one whom I mentioned is one of them, the one who sat down and wrote and felt healed. Definitely my Jessie and me. I have only 1 minute. I love you all. And you know what I'm going to do after speaking to you? I'm just going to feel healed. Thank you. A special message straight from me, okay? I love you.